topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. You know, I get letters all the time. We've been doing this for 12 years, and I get letters all the time. Do you ever read our emails? And just to prove to you, I do. We have had so many people write us asking us, and I'm sure it's because we have an older demographic as our listeners and viewers, but why aren't you doing a show on neuropathy? And in my 12 years, I've never had anybody ask that. But in the last 6 or 7 months, we have gotten so many of them. So then I had to search for a great doctor who knows neuropathy, and we were so lucky to find Dr. Patrick Sartz. Good morning, Dr. Sartz.
Good morning, Steve.
It's a little odd. We're here in sunny Florida, which is not so sunny today. We're 3 hours difference. So it's afternoon here, but it's still morning there in Arizona, right?
Correct. And we're nice and sunny today, too. About 100.
Oh, okay. So I don't feel bad.
Yeah.
Dr. Sartz, I am so blessed to have you as you're brand new. This is your first show. You'll be with us every month. Before we get started, tell us about yourself and your practice.
Well, I practice in Mesa, Arizona. I'm originally from Montana, that I grew up on a cattle ranch and dryland wheat farm. And that's kind of what led me here, just due to the fact that you grow up with a mentality, basically you're invincible, you can lift anything. And after graduating from college, I became a medical supply salesman, but I still had that farm mentality. And after about 5 years, I lifted some things I had no business lifting anymore, injured my back, was actually scheduled for back surgery. When I called my parents, my dad had me call my Uncle Frank, who was a chiropractor in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he gave me some advice finding a chiropractor here locally, and I had phenomenal results. In a 3.5-day period of time, I went from actually being stuck at about a 60-degree angle forward, with pain going down both legs into my feet, to playing racquetball. And it was just phenomenal, to the point that evening when I got home from playing racquetball, I started working on my wife for 3.5 months to convince her to let me sell the house so I could quit my job and go back to school. And that is what happened. Now, the reason that I got into neuropathy is due to the fact my mom started suffering with neuropathy when I was about 12. We believe it was from DDT, which was a herbicide pesticide that we used a lot back in the 60s and 70s. And our mentality basically was, as it kills weeds and bugs, it won't hurt me. And mom got drenched with it one day, didn't bother to clean up until that evening. Numbness started in her feet a few weeks after that and just progressed throughout the years. By the time I started chiropractic college in my late 20s, my mom was already fully confined to a wheelchair in a great deal of discomfort and pain. When I got out in 86, I started trying to find something to help her. Unfortunately, I never did. Both my parents passed away in 1999, but I found some things in 2006 that showed some promise, started treating patients in my office in 2008, and stopped treating patients in my office in 2015 when we realized we had a treatment, we didn't have a cure, so that now my patients treat themselves at home. And in the last 4 years, we'll get into it a little bit more, my overall success rate has been 98% of my patients have reported at least a 65% reduction in their symptoms.
That is amazing. Patrick, before we get started, I am so amazed at what chiropractors, the different techniques, new ways that chiropractors have a way to ease pain. It's just amazed me.
Well, basically, it's due to the fact that we have to find some things that work naturally because of the fact that we don't prescribe medications. And a TED talk that was done by, you'll have to forgive me, I'm kind of probably going to butcher this name, Siddhartha Maruki. He's from India originally, but he is one of the leading cancer researchers in the world. He's a Harvard-educated medical doctor, Nobel Prize winning doctor. But he did a TED talk back in 2015, and he talked about how medicine changed how we practice medicine in this country. And what he talked about is there's about 1 million different chemical reactions that occur in our human body. And then he asked the question, how many if you take all of pharmacology and all the medications that we have, how many of those chemical processes do we actually change? And the astounding number was 250. Now, that may have changed a little bit in the last 9 years, but still, there's 22,000 medications in 2015, and we only affect 250 chemical processes in our body. So we needed to find some other things, and that's what we do.
Well, we just got our first text, Patrick. This is from Randy in Phoenix. He wants to know, well, he's saying, I was one of the people who've been writing you about neuropathy. I am so glad you're doing a show on this. How does a person know if they have neuropathy?
Well, there's a couple of different things that we can do, but what I offer is I offer a free consultation, and we do a test on people. It's called the Toronto Clinical Scoring System for Peripheral Neuropathy. It's a sensory exam. We test for people for 7 different sensations in their lower leg and their feet, comparing how things feel there to a spot on your face. When everything is normal, you have the same nerve endings up on your chin that you do in your big toe. You should feel everything the same way. The test itself was actually developed by a couple of neurologists about 22 years ago, one out of the University of Toronto, one out of Harvard. And it gives us a lot of extensive information. Generally, neurologists will do an EMG, which is a nerve conduction study. But in all actuality, studies show that it only has a reliability of about 60 to 65%. And this is the reason that people that have neuropathy, when they go to a different neurologist, they'll continue to keep doing a new nerve conduction study because they don't necessarily trust the technician that did the last one.
You know, I don't want to scare people, but I kind of do. Tell people how dangerous neuropathy can be if not treated.
Well, it might start off with tingling and numbness. Like I said, my mom ended up in a wheelchair for 16 years. It will cause balance issues. And as we get older, that can really be a problem because you fall and break a hip. The chances that you're going to die within the first 12 months after breaking a hip increase dramatically just due to the fact that while you're recuperating, you're laying around and people die of pneumonia. But studies have actually shown that people that have neuropathy actually shorten their life expectancy by about 10 years.
Wow.
But it causes balance issues, sleep deprivation. It affects basically everything about your life. And in all actuality, for the vast majority of people that suffer with it, they really suffer with it needlessly, just due to the fact that they're told nothing can be done. And everything I do is actually been published in neurological and podiatry journals, and there's over 3,000 studies that show that what I do worldwide works.
Is neuropathy painful?
It can be. It can, because of the fact that we have different nerve endings at skin level, and that's what it basically is the nerves at the skin level actually recede deeper into the tissue, and then they fire on their own, very similar to maybe what an amputee might experience with phantom pains in a limb they no longer have. But so some people, depending on what nerves are actually affected, if the pain fibers aren't affected, it may not be painful, but it can get to the point where it's extremely painful. That I have a number of people that rate their pain levels 10 out of 10.
Wow. What causes neuropathy?
Well, the primary cause is diabetes, and that's probably the main question that every patient that walks in and goes, my feet are going numb, and the first question out of their mouth is, are you diabetic? But there's actually over 200 things that can cause neuropathy. Only 30% of people that suffer with neuropathy are actually diabetic. 70% of the time, it's from something else. Depending on the study you look at, that 30 to 40% of the people that suffer with it will be diagnosed with idiopathic neuropathy. And that word idiot is in there, and it's due to the fact that we know you got it, we just don't know why. But diabetes is kind of the easiest way to explain why somebody develops neuropathy. It is due to the fact of a loss of oxygen to the nerve endings. And when we talk about somebody having high blood sugar, the sugar isn't just floating freely through the bloodstream. It actually attaches to the red blood cell at the same point that oxygen should. A test that we do for it is called a hemoglobin A1C. And what that does is it actually tests your blood sugar for the last 90 days. The number that you get is actually a percentage. Normal is 5.5. You're pre-diabetic if it's 5.6 to 6.5, and you're diabetic if it's 6.6 and higher. But what that's actually indicating is that if you have an A1C of 7, which is what we can consider a controlled diabetic in this country, you are still running with 1.5% less oxygen on each and every red blood cell in your body. Now that's kind of, and as the A1C goes up, you're having less and less oxygen. So that's kind of like having a high performance car and you keep trying to put regular gas in it and wonder why it doesn't fire right.
Why are some people told nothing can be done about neuropathy?
Going back to that same adage of what I mentioned earlier, and that is that we try to medicate things. And unfortunately, there is no medication for neuropathy that's actually going to stop it from getting worse. It only masks. In fact, the most common medication that we actually use is gabapentin. And it's not even, and it's basically was developed as an anti-seizure medication for epilepsy. But they found that some people actually will get some reduction in symptoms from that. But the problem is as the neuropathy progresses, they continue to keep increasing the dosage of it, and the side effects will actually start to become worse than actually putting up with the neuropathy. And you can generally tell somebody, if you're ever at a function of older people, you can kind of get an idea of who's on the gabapentin, because they're the ones that really aren't following the conversation, or they fall asleep while they're talking.
It's got another text in. This is Jack in Phoenix. I am so glad you are doing a show on this. This is one of my favorite shows. I have a problem with my balance. Could that mean possibly, I'm 72 years old, and does that possibly mean I'm suffering from neuropathy?
Possibly. I mean, there's a number of different things that can cause balance issues, but neuropathy will cause balance issues, and it's due to the fact that as those nerve endings recede deeper into the tissue, they're no longer down at the sole of the foot. So a lot of people may feel like they're walking on a sponge or a piece of cardboard. And it actually can get to the point where you actually lose proprioception and get to the point so that you may not even be aware of where your feet are at. That situation that happened with my mom is that she went out to the garage one day to start the car, and she swore that her foot was on the brake and the engine raced. And she realized that she had no idea where her feet were at. She shut off the car, went back into the house, and my dad realized that he was the only driver in the house and he didn't need 3 vehicles anymore.
Amazing. Why do you have your patients treat their neuropathy at home?
Because there is no cure for it. Because of the fact that neuropathy is a secondary disease, and what I mean by that is it's caused by something else. 30 to 40% of the people, we can't even figure out the cause. That cause is constantly there, and it's constantly attacking those nerves. Now, we can get ahead of it so that we can get those nerves back to functioning normal again, but you're still going to have to treat it to some degree so that it doesn't come back. It's one of the things that I learned, and the reason that we switched doing in-office treatments back in 2015, 2016 is that we did a survey of 200 patients that we treated from 2008 to 2014, and had pretty much all of them tell me that their neuropathy was just as bad as it was before they ever came to see me, if not worse. And so the only one that benefited from them coming to see me was me, and that wasn't what I was about. So we've gone to a home treatment protocol. Still, at that time, we had to do a test treatment here in the office to make sure it was going to work, because my overall success rate at that time was about 71%. So 29% it still wouldn't work for. But now advances in technology have basically gotten us to the point that 98% of our patients respond, and that 2% is, a lot of it is non-compliance, that not everybody does what I ask them to do at home.
We just got another text from Sam. I'm really enjoying the show. Is neuropathy fatal?
Not fatal per se, but it can, because of the fact of the balance issues, it can lead to falls. And the underlying causes of the neuropathy, if somebody basically is not taking care of, is diabetic, and they're not getting their blood sugar under control, then that in itself can start to cause some other problems, because of the fact that uncontrolled diabetes basically will lead to foot ulcers, infections, and those infections are actually what can kill people.
He also wants to know, I have kidney problems. Could that also be a cause for neuropathy?
It can, particularly if somebody's on dialysis. That what ends up happening is that people on dialysis, they're going in 3 times a week. It lowers your blood sugar, it lowers the oxygen content. That if you actually measure somebody that's been on dialysis, that after they've gone through it and take their blood oxygen levels, you'll find that they have dropped probably 10 to 15% following that. And during that period of time, it can aggravate the nerves. Those, unfortunately, are people that may benefit to some degree from what I'm doing. And that's kind of a trial and error type of situation. There's a couple other things that we need to kind of look at that particular point. The other reason that I have a 98% success rate in what I do is I have figured out who I can't help. And so I don't take them as patients.
We got another text. This is really good for our first show, from Rosemarie. She wants to know, first of all, are you open on the weekends?
Unfortunately not. Let me rephrase that. Fortunately, I am married and I have to keep some civility within my household. And I'm 70 years old, so I don't want to work as much as I used to. So I see new patients on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I do have some flexibility, and if people really need to, I have been known to come in on Saturdays and that, but we need a little bit of advance notice.
Okay, she had another question. She said, I have heard that laser treatments can help neuropathy. What are your feelings on that?
The answer is yes, but the problem is that we go back to that needing to continue to keep doing the treatment. And a laser itself, I know, is something that they're expensive, the ones that actually work. It's something, as I said, I discovered some things in 2006 that showed some promise. Okay. So I bought a laser for $70,000 and I sold it 2 years later for $45,000 because it did not do what I wanted it to do. It would, and so those are the types of things that the reason that we've gone to a home treatment, but lasers are infrared, and that is what I use. But what I use are specifically designed to treat neuropathy. They are only available through a doctor, but they're extremely effective in the right circumstances.
It's fun. Patrick told me he was 70 years old, and if you're watching us on TV right now, he looks really good for 70. You're still working, though. Why?
Yes. Well, when I started treating neuropathy back in 2006, 2008, there weren't a lot of clinics that did it. Now we have a lot of clinics that treat neuropathy, but they're making the same mistakes that I did through the first 6 years. They're trying to do it in office. The neuropathy returns. There's a lot of basically what it is there's a lot of doctors out there, and I don't mean to be harsh, but are more concerned on whether or not they get paid than whether you get better. And I answer my phone 7 days a week from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night that my patients are treating themselves at home. I want to make sure that my patients get better, and I do, because I don't get phone calls from people that are angry at me.
Yeah, that's right. It's correct. What are some of the common myths about neuropathy?
First one basically is that there's nothing that can be done for it. That is a common thing that you go into your family doctor that you'll tell them your feet are numb or they start to hurt, and they might take a pin out and see if you can feel the pin prick or cold or something this way, and go, geez, you've got neuropathy, and they write you a script for gabapentin. And that may or may not help, but if it doesn't, then you go, geez, well, I'll go and see a neurologist, see what he does. And so they'll go in, they'll have the nerve conduction study done, which can be kind of painful. And then you go in for the results, and he goes, yep, you got neuropathy. Here's a prescription for gabapentin. Now, here in Arizona, where I'm at in the Phoenix area, that we have two of the major healthcare facilities in the world, Mayo Clinic and Burroughs Neurological. And so you might go, well, geez, that neurologist didn't do anything. I'm going to go to Mayo. So you'll go to Mayo, you'll meet with 3 neurologists. They'll interview you for a few hours. They'll go, you need another nerve conduction study. So they'll do that. And then you'll go back and have the results done, and you'll meet with your primary neurologist at that point, and they'll go, you've got neuropathy. Here's a script for gabapentin. And it's just due to the fact that they're not looking outside the box. The treatments that I do have actually been around, and the research was first published in 1999 in podiatry and neurological journals here in the United States. As I said, there's been over 3,000 studies that have been done from that point. There's no way in God's green earth I could continue to keep doing what I'm doing and be in business for 16 years and keep my office open if this didn't work. And so the main thing is the fact that that people are told that there's nothing that can be done, that nerves don't regenerate, but studies have shown that they do. We did pre and post biopsies on a few patients back in 2010, 2011, and showed that we could actually increase the nerve density by over 400% at the skin levels. So nerves can be redone. Harvard has done studies similar, as has Mass General. These are the types of things that a lot of what we're told basically are just due to the fact that they're not looking outside the box. And if you do, you can find a lot of things. Cancer research, for example, and the doctor that I mentioned before, he's actually developed a way to actually stimulate your immune system to fight your cancer. We're not using drugs from the outside. We're stimulating your own body's immune system to fight it. And our bodies are remarkable if you give them the right opportunity.
Well, I got to tell you, you are a wonderful speaker, Patrick. Let's give everybody your phone number and your website address.
My phone number is 480-556-1358. And as I said, that is answered 7 days a week from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. Even when I'm in office hours, Elizabeth will be answering. Outside of office hours, you're going to get me, so don't be surprised. My website is neuropathycurable.com. And the answer is no, but it is treatable.
Well, you'll be with us every month. Great first show, and we look forward to your next show.
Okay. I appreciate you having me. I look forward to it too.
Thanks, Patrick. Wonderful doctor, amazing. And neuropathy, I've got family members who have that, and I've learned so much today. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.